majestic Mount Ruapehu, seemingly retired for the past 10 years, quietly brews a crater lake bursting at the seams to create yet another natural phenomenon. This time, 1.3 million cubic meters of volcanic sludge and water in what soon becomes the Lahar of 2007. It wasn't an eruption to cause the event, but the crater's tephra dam finally disintegrating on a rainy day, the 18th of March. The Lahar warning system sounded the call. The pent-up lake roared into action with enough water and slurry to fill Wellington's Westpac Stadium 1.5 times. Scientific data allowed us to watch the episode unfold in textbook fashion, exactly as the scientist had predicted. Years in the making, the torrent of volcanic debris soon swept down the Whangaehu Valley, through Tangiwai and headed out to sea within a matter of hours. There will always be a residual Lahar risk on Mount Ruapehu because it is, after all, an active volcano. Historically, it's erupted on average every 3 to 5 years in the last 100. This Lahar began taking shape as far back as the 1995 eruption, an unusual awakening from Mount Ruapehu we didn't expect. And while the mountain gave us a spectacular view above, the greatest peril lay below as tidal wave lahars of ash and debris streamed down its flanks, and even onto the slopes of Whakapapa ski resort, causing evacuations and a lot of excitement. Blow after blow, Ruapehu continued to vent steam and ash-bearing plumes to heights of 5,000 feet and above, his largest eruption in 50 years. It was this series of explosions in '95 which began the formation of a 7-metre high soft rock and ash dam on the eastern ridge of Crater Lake, which was again emptied. In the 1996 eruptions, the mountain's crater was finally blown dry. Volcanic gases freely streamed through rubble on the crater floor. After a couple of months, there was nothing left of the crater but the sulphurous gases of steam and rock. Scientists were concerned over this new tephra dam, and so began their planning for the next Lahar. Ruapehu's most recent event is the best studied Lahar ever recorded. Even before the dam burst, scientists had mapped the Lahar path precisely, as can be seen by the satellite picture taken from space. So by the time the crater rim failed, full-scale emergency response plans were already in action. Sunday morning, just before 11, the electronic safety alarm sounded. Police closed roads with the expectation of a sudden deluge of mud. Trains were stopped, and the civil defence was on high alert. The best view of this show of power was through the lens of a TV3 camera, halfway down the mountain. The news crew was first to confirm the event was no false alarm. The floodwaters swiftly overwhelmed a crossing, roared down the Whangaehu River and through Tangiwai, the very place where the most deadly Lahar occurred nearly 54 years before. Known as the Tangiwai disaster, the Christmas Eve tragedy gave incredible weight to the importance of planning for Lahar 2007. The 1953 episode was created in the same manner, by a bursting dam on the Crater Lake. Only then it was during the night, and with no warning. Then a great volcanic wave reaching 6 meters roared down the river, destroying the rail bridge piers at Tangiwai just minutes before the express train was to cross. With no mercy, the bridge collapsed under the massive weight of the KA 949, the express from Wellington to Auckland. At 10:21 p.m, the locomotive and carriage upon carriage flew off the tracks, plunging into the fierce boil of the Lahar. 151 passengers and crew were killed in the tragedy. Many of the bodies were never found. The 2007 breakout was 25% larger than the one to cause the Tangiwai catastrophe, though its aftermath looked much the same, minus the carnage of New Zealand's worst train wreck. The waves of rock and mud swept over the memorial and carved out the riverbanks, leaving a thick track of gooey mud and silt everywhere. A toilet block was ripped from its concrete base, but the rail bridge stood firm, as did the monument to those who died at Tangiwai. Miraculously, it too was left unscathed. Eager to take place in a piece of history, a steady flow of tourists and students wade through the Lahar path at Tangiwai days later. For Ruapehu's crater rim, a 40-metre wide breach is the only evidence a dam ever existed, or for that matter caused any trouble at all. With 10% of the lake spilling over, now well out to sea with little effect on human life in the process, Lahar 2007 could well be considered the most well-managed natural disaster in history. As for another eruption, there will be future performances, but when? Mount Ruapehu at the moment is keeping that to himself.